I'm going to call this special meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors for November 28th of 2022 to order. Let's see, do we have our other two supervisors on the line?
Supervisor Angus?
Can you hear me on Teams?
Yes. And Supervisor Johnson? Supervisor Johnson, are you there? We do have a quorum.
The Board of Supervisors may by motion recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3, 4, and 7. Official business to come before the board. Item 1A is a discussion and possible action regarding reconsideration of item 41 from November 21st meeting.
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
I'd make a motion for reconsideration of item 41 from the November 21st, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting.
Second.
You've heard that motion in second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. And item 2B, I've received quite a few comments from people that are don't trust the electronic voting machines. And before this election and then even since our last board meeting, so I have some concern with that. But let me go ahead. I got a couple of people from the public that requested to speak, and we'll talk to them. David Akins. Just approach the podium and state your name and your city of residence.
My name is David Akins, and I'm a resident of Mojave County, and I think it's the Valley Vista precinct. And my questions are this: can you not certify, period, all these counties and make everything have to be redone, or how does that work? And if not, does this person get in office and you can't get them out like when Biden got in office? You're stuck with them. How does that work?
Let me have the attorney explain the process to you.
So this is just the canvas of the votes that were cast in Mojave County. And you may be talking about Mojave County candidates. You may be.
I'm talking mainly Maricopa County.
I think and I anticipate you're probably talking about
counties.
Let the attorney speak, and then you can respond to what he says.
As far as statewide candidates go, this is just the canvas of the county votes that were cast. If these are cast, the candidates and electors have if the board passes or canvasses the election from Mojave County today, the candidates and electors have the opportunity to challenge that canvas. Without the challenge of without the canvas being passed, there will be no opportunity for anyone to challenge a canvas that didn't exist. And so that's part of the process, is canvassing the election. If someone has either an elector or a candidate has a complaint about the votes that were canvassed in Mojave County, that will be brought. If not, it'll move on. It'll be passed to the Secretary of State. Another opportunity to challenge can pass there. And if everything passes challenges, no court actions impede the canvasses of the elections from here through the certification process by the Secretary of State and the governor, then the winners of the elections will take their offices.
We went so fast, I didn't catch quite all that. So, you can challenge it, is what you're saying. Once they canvass and you say, yeah, Mojave was good, you can challenge them, is what you're saying, right?
I don't know who you're talking about when you say you.
Maricopa County. once you get the canvas done, you keep saying they can challenge it, or they can,
The statutes allow for a candidate to challenge the canvas after a Board of Supervisors has canvassed the election.
okay, so that's only a candidate. A county can't challenge it.
The county would not, because the county, assuming that the county passes the proposed motion here in 1B, then that will canvass the election of, or canvass the votes that were cast in Mojave County.
Okay, supposing you didn't certify it, they can't push all these votes out. They can't throw them out, can they? There's no way to do
If
that.
the Board of Supervisors of Mojave County refuses to canvass the election, there will not be an opportunity for either the candidates or an elector to challenge a canvass that didn't exist.
But the worst part is,
The votes will also not be counted from Mojave County.
well, that's just from franchising the whole county when they do that. I don't see, we're stuck with basically a cheat setup that cheated everybody. We're stuck with it. Once they put them in the office, you can't get them out unless you do a recall. And if they do that, I would say right off the bat, all of the counties around should push in for a recall to make them redo the Maricopa election, because there's a lot of people they didn't even let vote. And why would you have on a machine a third drawer unless you were planning to have votes that you can count where you can play with them? If you hand count them, you can just take the number of ballots and divide into how many you need to just barely win, and not really look at the ballots. All you got to do is know the total number. So anytime you count them, unless you got some bunches of people watching them, you can get scammed so easy. So why would you have the drawer 3? So the Dominion machine was only, I guess, used in that county and probably Pima or any county that's mostly Democrat, I'm gonna guess.
As I said before, this is, the action here by the board today is whether to canvass the votes that were cast in Mojave County only. It has nothing to do with what happened in Maricopa County, Pima County, or any other county.
So basically the hands are tied.
We don't get to certify Maricopa County's election. We get to certify Mojave County's election because we're the Mojave County Board of Supervisors. But the candidates can challenge, and there is a challenge today.
I know there's challenges by Kerry and by Abe Hamaday,
Sure.
and I think Finch's probably challenged it too.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But it looks like Blake already gave up anyway.
It does.
He congratulated when he shouldn't have, but whatever.
Thanks for coming down, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Louis Proudfoot.
Good morning. My name is Louis Proudfoot. I'm the second vice chair for the Democratic Party here in Mojave County. Excuse me. I spoke last week as well. And last week, the Director of Elections presented the results, a summary of the results of the election here in Mojave County. And he mentioned that there were almost 600 people who had participated in the election. That's his full-time staff, the temporary people that he brings on board, and the volunteers, several of whom are actually here, and many were last week actually here. To do that requires a process that is very robust, a training program that is very robust, a recruitment program, and the leadership that the director showed, and the management and administration that his staff showed to make a team that large, a temporary team that large, work very well and produce an excellent result. Everybody, from all of the supervisors to almost all of the speakers, congratulated the director on an election well run. Several said, gee, I sure wish you were in Maricopa County. But then ours wouldn't be run so well, so we wouldn't want to do that. In any case, the process hasn't changed, the numbers haven't changed, the result hasn't changed. I urge you today, as I did last week, to approve the canvas, and let's get this one over with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to make a motion that the Board of Supervisors brings in an outside inspector to inspect the cast ballot record and the system log files before we canvass the election. I think we should actually take a look at that before we just go ahead and rubber stamp the canvas.
And Supervisor Chairman Gould, if I may, I just want to remind the board that the statutory duty under 16642 is to canvass the election. If there are issues with it, that's the process of the canvass, is to make the determinations as to what votes go to which candidates or which ballot initiatives and which do not. That's the process that we're here for today. Today is the last day under statute to canvass the election. If the board fails to do so today, they will be violating the statute. They will be violating the law. If the board fails to canvass the election, members of the board who vote not to canvass the election could also be subject to criminal liability. Under various statutes, the requirements in an issue like this where there is no discretion under the statute for the board to whether to canvass or not, it is a Class 2 misdemeanor for a elected official to commit nonfeasance. And in this case, there would be a legitimate argument to bring a case of nonfeasance against members of the Board of Supervisors who failed to perform their statutory duty today on the last day that it is allowed.
Mr. Haas, I believe the statute allows for an extension of the canvass 1 day at a time for 6 days if we have an issue.
It only allows for that if there are outstanding votes that have not been collected.
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Just a question for County Attorney's Office. Under 16622, does it define how the county certifies specific procedures?
622 does not in and of itself, but another statute does. And if you give me just a moment. I said 622, I meant 642, I apologize. 16642.
Did you just reference 16642?
Correct. Yeah.
I said 166.
Oh, 16622.
22.
22. Let me take a look at what you're referencing.
The question was, does 16-622 include specific procedures on specifically defining how the county certifies?
(16-622) does and states that at any time following the close of the polls, except as provided in another section, unofficial results may be released during the counting of the ballots. And then subsection B says, in any election for a federal office, statewide office, or a member of the legislature, or in any election for a statewide ballot measure, and all unofficial returns that are released during the counting of the ballots and all unofficial results that are open to the public shall be released to the public by be transmitted by telephone, by facsimile, or by other electronic means to the Secretary of State. Subsection A also indicates that the result printed by the vote tabulating equipment to which have been added write-in or early ballot shall, when certified by the Board of Supervisors or other officer in charge, constitute the official canvass of each precinct or election district.
Appreciate the response. And after listening to you read that, I don't hear a how. So what Chairman Gould is requesting, I think, would be within our power. The only thing that we would be up against, is you're saying, is there's obviously the statutory deadline of today.
Correct.
We have risks under that statutory deadline, is what you're saying.
Correct. The statutory deadline that is imposed as today's date, 30 days following the election, It has to be done. If there's no discretion, it has to be canvassed. If it is not canvassed, the votes of all Mojave County residents who cast votes in the election will not be counted. That's for statewide elections, that's for countywide elections. Those individuals who have, under the unofficial results, appear to have won election to the Mojave County Superior Court, the Mojave County Justice Courts, the constables, the Mojave County Treasurer, and various other elected officials. If there is no canvass, those individuals will not be able to take their seats, because today is the last day that the statute allows the Board of Supervisors to canvass the election.
So, Mr. Haas, what happens after that?
Assuming that the board doesn't canvass the election,
Correct. And those officers would not be able to take their seats.
they would not be able to take their seats, and depending on which offices they are, another elected official or elected body would appoint someone to fill their seats. So if none of the 6 Mojave County Superior Court judges were able to take their seats who were on the ballot in this election, the governor, come January, would be able to appoint 6 Mojave County Superior Court judges to fill those seats. Other individuals or other offices like the county treasurer, the Board of Supervisors would be able to appoint individuals to occupy those seats until a special election could be held.
It seems to me that if we were to postpone our canvass for the inspection of the cast ballot vote records and the system log files, that a court somewhere would tell us to canvass the election.
That's certainly a possibility if...
In order to canvass the election.
It's certainly a possibility. It's just, that road has never been run down, and so we'd be waiting for a court to make a determination.
It's also interesting that we have the option to vote yes or to vote no, but if we were to vote no, then there's a threat of imprisonment.
It's not that you have the option to vote yes or no, it's that you have to canvass the election by today's date. Now, the Board of Supervisors can make a determination as to which votes are valid. If there are issues, they make the determination as to what votes are part of the official canvass for Mojave County. That's what we're doing today.
Interesting.
Excuse me, Chairman Gould. Supervisor Angus is trying to say something, but obviously we're not hearing her, so.
Okay.
Supervisor Angus, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, I guess I was moving on their side. So you made the case that the Mojave County elected officials who won their elections would not be able to be seated, but you're really talking about January. They wouldn't be seated until January anyway, right?
They wouldn't be able to take their seats in January.
Right, but we keep hearing this date of December 5th as the last date, not this date. That's what we are being told from people who really understand election law. Do you know anything about that?
That is the date that is the governor and secretary of state are required to take the canvasses from the counties.
Right. So what happens between today and that date?
Under what circumstances?
No, what happens if we didn't certify today and we come back on the 4th or the 5th or whatever? What happens this week if we don't certify, but okay, we certify the day of, again, we all have our reasons why. I'm very uncomfortable certifying. My constituents have been contacting me. They want us to do whatever is legally in our power to let everyone know that they feel they're being disenfranchised. We're seeing that the Maricopa Board of Supervisors will do nothing to ensure us of that. I will not presume to know what their motives are. That is on them. I know our job is to certify this election, but my job is also to be able to look at my constituents in the eyes and tell them that this is and was a good election all around, that I felt confident certifying. Right now, I'm not sure that I can do that in good conscience, knowing that all questions in Maricopa remain unanswered. As Supervisor Gould stated last meeting, this is the only recourse we have to make that statement. I did not, up until a minute ago, believe by postponing this vote for a few more days, we are putting the county into any legal jeopardy.
You've raised several points there, and if I can try and address some of them, I'll try and address all of them. If the Board of Supervisors were to attempt to come back at a later date prior to December 5th, that canvass would be invalid because the statute makes today the last day for the county to canvass the elections. If the Board of Supervisors were to invalidly canvass the election on December 3rd or December 5th, or December 4th, those would not be, that would not be a valid canvass, and those votes would not be counted. And essentially, all Mojave County residents who cast ballots in this election would be disenfranchised. It also, and just to address some of the other concerns that have been raised here today, there is a challenge that is pending to the canvass, which was initiated prematurely, but is making its way through the courts by candidate Abraham Hamadeh, and I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, I apologize if I've butchered it. He has initiated a challenge to the canvass, but for him to prevail in his election, or in his election challenge, it requires that the canvasses be done. If no canvass is done, there is nothing to challenge. I don't know if I've addressed all of your concerns there, and I'm happy to address them if there's any further concerns.
Well, all your statements are contrary to what we've been hearing, so now I really kind of have to rethink and get some more information. I'm very uncomfortable voting to certify today, but honestly, I did not hear before from any of the experts that there would be a threat of jail involved in it. But in today's day and age, they'll probably come and take me out in the middle of the night in my pajamas on my front lawn. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to do. I defer to Chairman Gould.
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you. Similar to what Supervisor Angus has shared, I think all of us, every single one of us, the five of us on this board, we try to, this isn't about us and how we feel as individuals, it's how we try to represent the citizens that are within our district. So on an issue like that, sometimes it can be very challenging. I think everybody agrees that Mojave County, we did a really good job on our election. But as we've seen, not just this election, but a couple of years ago, Maricopa County became sort of this hotspot in the whole country. They were talking about this in the whole country. Mojave County's decision to postpone a week made news across the country. People are hyper vigilant about this issue. And, I voted last Monday to postpone for a week because I didn't see the big deal. I mean, it didn't cost Mojave County any more money to delay it a week. The deadline was today. And there are a lot of people out there in Arizona, maybe not just in Arizona, that don't fully trust the election system. And I don't care which side of the aisle you sit on, whether you have a D or an R behind your name, that should really, be of concern to all of us. We want people to trust the process, right? This issue that we're talking about today that happened in Maricopa County was serious enough to warrant a letter from the Arizona Attorney General's office with some questions. And I have been trying to follow the newspapers to see if they received a response, maybe our county attorney's office knows the status of that, Maricopa County's response to the Arizona Attorney General's letter that they sent requiring them to answer all these myriad of questions before they certified Maricopa County's elections. Can you tell me about that?
There was a letter that was sent yesterday from the Maricopa County Attorney's Office in response to the Arizona Attorney General's office regarding those questions that you referenced, yes.
Okay, so there was a letter. Do you know what the letter said? And was the Attorney General's office satisfied as to the contents of that letter?
I have not seen anything as to the Attorney General's reaction or response to the responsive letter from Maricopa County Attorney's Office. As to the content of the Maricopa County Attorney's letter regarding the issues, they did address the door 3 issue. They did explain that the door 3 issue is the exact same process that is utilized in the majority of Arizona counties, including Mojave County, because we don't have voting centers like they have in Maricopa County. Ultimately, I believe the letter indicated that there were 13 votes, or 13 ballots that were deposited in door 3 by individuals who were not properly checked out or had issues checking out of one voting center and cast a provisional ballot in another voting center. There were 13 ballots that were, for whatever reason, were not counted and were legally deficient and could not be counted according to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
Well, no matter what happens today, hopefully the state legislature this next session does what it can to make our elections, there's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. And the thing that I have, and I can sympathize with some of the people that have questions about the election is, it was almost kind of the same response that you saw when we had COVID. The people that tried to research things individually, they tried to not just listen to the television, but look at scientific studies, look at a bunch of different information and try to form their own opinions. There was so much pressure, and there was guilt and shame, in my opinion, that were lobbed onto people that didn't toe the line, and even to the point where your livelihood was threatened. Being arrested for not certifying an election would be one of those ways that your livelihood would be threatened. That's the stuff that gives common citizens reservations about the process. And I think we should do better. We have to do better in this state. What happens in Maricopa County, we don't live there. It's 3 hours away, but it reverberates across our state. And it falls in our backyard and in everybody else's backyard. So I just think that hopefully the legislature takes it up this year. I know they're going to. And both Democrats and Republicans can work together to make the process better. That's all I have to say.
And Supervisor Lingenfelter and Chairman Gould, I appreciate those comments, Supervisor Lingenfelter. And I don't want it taken that I'm trying to threaten anybody. I just, as the board's counsel, I just want you to be aware of what the consequences of whatever action you take are.
Yeah, Mr. Haas, I did not take anything as a threat. You're advising us and trying to keep us out of trouble. That's your job.
Chairman Gould?
Let me get Supervisor Bishop. She's been patiently waiting.
Thank you, Chairman Gould. My comment is failure to canvass the election this morning at this meeting is malfeasance of office, and I'm not willing to visit the Mojave County Jail on behalf of the Central Committee for the Republican Party or all of the people from other counties that have been sending us these many emails and threatening to put our cell phone numbers out for people to contact us to try to sway our vote. We said at the last meeting we were, according to Supervisor Angus, we're making a political statement only. That passed. We've made our political statement as a board. We're here now to do the work of the county, and not voting to canvass this vote is not doing the work of county government. So I will support to approve the canvass of the votes.
Thank you, ma'am. Supervisor Angus.
Yeah, with all due respect to our fill-in lawyer, what he said, and I'm not doubting it, I'm just saying it's contrary to what I've been told this whole last week. So, this is a huge decision. This is, in my opinion, one of the biggest things that we've done because it affects everything. And I want to make sure that it is done soberly with all the information. I hate that it's last minute. And I hate what the position Maricopa County has put us in. And, don't fool yourself. They have done this. I don't believe the supervisors have really done their job. And I've told them to their face. I'm not saying anything that I haven't told them to their face. And I'm livid that our constituents feel that their vote doesn't count. And, all I want to do is make sure that we have exhausted every avenue that we can go down that's within our legal purview. Of course, I don't want to go to jail, but I also do not want the county to be put in a position as well. But again, what I've heard up until now is that we could do it on December 5th. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure really what to do. I wish I had more time, but we don't. So again, I'd like to hear more from the chairman.
We have all day. The 28th goes till midnight. Mr. Hobbs, you spoke about the Hamaday court challenge. Was he challenging Mojave County also?
He is as of me coming down for this meeting, he is the only election challenge that has been filed to my knowledge against Mojave County. Okay. There was another lawsuit that was filed by the Carrie Lake, that one was a public records request lawsuit, only a public records request lawsuit against Maricopa County defendants only. It does not involve Mojave County in any way, and it really is only about getting documents from Maricopa County. It's not even an election challenge or a canvass challenge.
Okay, thank you, sir. Supervisor Johnson, do you have any questions or comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. My motion is still on the floor. I haven't ruled it dead yet, but I will rule it dead shortly.
Can I hear it again, please?
I did not hear what she said.
She wants to.
Can you restate the motion?
Board of Supervisors obtain an outside inspection of the cast vote record and the system log file.
I'm going to second that.
You've heard that motion in second. Any further discussion?
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor
Chairman Gould.
Walter.
Can that action be done whether or not the the canvas is approved? I mean, if the canvas were approved today, could that test still be done?
I do not know. I wonder if Alan knows the answer to that question. Come on up.
Start stepping up a little bit. This is good. Thank you. You know what? I don't know that answer. I can't tell you this though. The cast vote record is something that's not made public, okay? I'm not saying this isn't public, so I don't know how that would really play down, right? We've had many of requests for cast vote records from, the 2020 election, and they wanted to match them up somehow, the whatever. And with all the requests that we had, and also across the whole state, they weren't being given out. The cast vote records because it was it's to be stored in the same way as the ballots. Okay, I understand that in the same, I don't want to say the word secrecy, that's, same manner to, like, security. That's it, right? And it's electronic record. A cast vote record is an electronic. You know this because you're asking. But an electronic record of, we'll say, a sheet of paper that says a ballot made this happen, okay? And that has been denied on every case in Mojave County and other counties about allowing that to, people having access to that. Also, to do that, you would need to compare it to something which would be an actual ballot, the 84,000 ballots that we have. You'd have to compare a vote cast record. See, we've never been down this road, so I don't know. It's not like, oh, we've done this before, or others have done it and such, right? So to really get down after that whole thing, I don't know. I really don't know.
So the cast vote record records whether an individual voted or not, cast a ballot, correct?
Part of it.
What else is on there other than that?
Whatever they voted for. It's a whole different record of what, it's an electronic representation of the ballot without actually physically looking at the face of the ballot.
Is it tied to the identifier of that individual voter?
It is not.
So it doesn't really break the sacred pledge of secret ballot then?
It does not, but I'm going to add a little thing in here, but neither does the ballot. You do not, I could show you 84,000 ballots, and unless you signed your name on it, you wouldn't know which one was yours. Okay, so to speak, or anybody else's, right? So turning over the vote cast record, it would be the same as if I would say, here's, I have about 125 boxes of ballots stored away. Here, start looking at them. Same concept. So right now, the law, to our interpretation, is neither is allowed to be turned over.
So the system log file, what does that contain?
I don't know. That one there, I got to say, I don't know. But I know about the cast vote record because I've learned about it because of people wanting to see it.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Chairman Gould. Alan, I appreciate your information. So by listening to you, it sounds as though there's never been an instance where that information has been disclosed to outside parties. But has there ever been in Arizona a county that has performed an internal review, I guess is what you would call it, of that cast vote record?
I don't know.
I'm just trying to navigate.
Supervisor Lingenfelter and Chairman Gould, if I can interject, I apologize. And Alan's office has looked at this quite a bit since the 2020 election. Our office has looked at this significantly. The statutes require the cast vote record to be treated in the same fashion as the ballots, and therefore the board can't get at that without a court order. That's what allows a court order, is what's going to allow any individual, whether it's a candidate, whether it's the Board of Supervisors or anybody else, the opportunity to take a look at the cast vote record or ballots because of the way that the Arizona legislature has designed its election laws. I haven't looked into the system log record, and so I don't have an answer to that question at this point.
That whole thing seems weird since it doesn't identify the voter and how they voted. It's just the log of the votes that were cast. But we shrouded that in secrecy. The legislature at least has.
The legislature has.
Interesting.
Chairman Gould,
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
just to clarify, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this whole thing, as you can imagine, right?
I can imagine.
Trying to serve the people that put me in this chair, right? So you're saying that there's never been a county board that has went out to get a court order to look at this record. They've just not gone to the trouble to do that.
No, no one has. I've not seen a court case where a board of supervisors in any county in Arizona has sought a court order to do this. There have been election challenges from candidates where court orders have issued to deal with this sort of thing. However, because, and it makes sense to me because the Board of Supervisors typically, in every prior election, has canvassed the election. And so they haven't bothered to try and get a court order to do this because they've already canvassed the election. That doesn't mean that a Board of Supervisors couldn't go to court and seek this information, and a judge would have to determine whether they have standing to be able to assert this and whether it can be disclosed to them, whether there's a legitimate public purpose.
Well, the reason I think that, no matter what happens today, there's some sort of a test like that, or even going to get a court order to try to look at it, to some people that might sound really silly, right? But we have this percentage of the population that does not have trust in our elections, and maybe there's some people that you just will never be able to please on both sides. But I was always taught that the truth never minds being questioned, right? And if you're trying to battle this perception, what better way than to do some sort of a test that would take 2-3 days, and then you put it out there, and say, look, we're not going to try to shame you or make you feel guilty for asking these questions. If anything, it shows at least you're a little bit interested in the process, which is what we want. We want you to be interested in our democratic process, right? And, the truth never minds being questioned, and you put it out and you're like, there, see? Maybe you would gain more trust that way. That's kind of why I'm a little bit interested in this.
And certainly, Supervisor Lingenfelter, if that's something that the board wishes to do, they can make that decision. We can look into filing suit to try and get access to that information for the board. But I don't know that really changes anything as to what we're here for today, which is the canvass of the election. That's certainly something that could be done subsequent to the canvass for sure, or the lack of canvass.
Supervisor Bishop.
So if the board chose to do this, we could do this after the canvass of the election with no harm being done. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, we could initiate a court action to try and get access to that information, whether or not the board canvasses the election today. That's something subsequent that would be that we could try to get at. Like I said, we'd need a court order to get to it.
Okay, and Alan, can you advise what the cost of this would be for this board to hire an outside consultant or whatever to do this this process that Supervisor Gold is recommending?
No idea, Supervisor Bishop.
Is there anybody even available out there with the expertise that we could get in a reasonable amount of time to come in and do this?
Not that I'm aware of. I've never thought down that road.
Okay. And then, I need to say that Thursday I spent Thanksgiving with constituents out in Golden Valley. This canvass, the election, was never brought up. Friday I spent several hours in downtown Kingman for Black Friday events, walking around with friends. Saturday, I did the same thing with Small Business Saturday. Sunday, again, I was out and about talking to constituents. And these 4 days, I was talking to constituents from both District 1 and District 4. Not one person over that 4-day period asked me anything about the election, the vote, the canvassing. It does not appear to be on the minds of Mojave County residents, with a few exceptions, the gentleman in the back that's waving his hand, but for the most part, our citizens voted. We did an excellent job in Mojave County. There's no questions here. There's no reason not to canvass this vote today. And if Supervisor Gold wants to go forward after the canvass is done and do this process, I would not have a problem with that. I would like to know what that would cost us first, because we're responsible for the taxpayers' dollars that come to us in the way of their taxes.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion?
Chairman Gould and Supervisor Lingenfelter, I apologize. I just because I want to advise the board of potential consequences. If the motion is carries today, the one issue that may present a problem for us with the Attorney General's office is that this was not an action that was agendized, or a motion that was agendized, because today's agenda is just about the canvas, not about an investigation. It would be my opinion and my recommendation, it would be prudent to, at a subsequent time, agendize this item for the board to take action on, just so that we don't run afoul of open meeting laws.
Which seems rather strange because you're asking me to canvass something that I have a question on, but yet I can't make a motion to get my question answered?
And Supervisor Gould, I'm sorry if I'm not being clear or creating some confusion. But as I discussed with Supervisor Lingenfelter, whether or not to do an independent audit and investigation of this information really is something that's separate from the canvas. It can be done after today's action, whether the board chooses to canvass or not canvass the election in Mojave County. That investigation, that motion can move forward with no bearing on the canvas itself. And that's why I have some concerns that it would run afoul of the open meeting laws.
The canvas, so essentially I'm asked to rubber stamp an election. And if I don't rubber stamp the election, then they're going to haul me off in chains and I'm going to get to see the inside of the jail. To me, that just does not seem like the American way.
And I apologize, Chairman Gould. The issue is whether to canvass the election or not today. Canvassing the election, the board has the authority to make determinations on what votes count and what votes don't count. And as you said, you've got all day to make that determination because today's the deadline. But nothing thus far that I have seen has called into question any of the votes that have been cast in Mojave County. But if the board determines that there's some votes that should not be allocated to candidates or to ballot initiatives, this is the meeting to do that in. And whether to canvass the election or not is ultimately the determination of this board. And I understand that there are some concerns that constituents of each of you have with the election, but what I'm hearing, and you can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is there are concerns with the election in Maricopa County, not in Mojave County. And all we're here to do is to decide whether to all that you're here to do is to decide whether to canvass or not the votes that were cast in Mojave County.
Chairman Gould, could I ask a question?
Supervisor Bishop.
Mr. Attorney, last week we, as a board, declared Mojave County a constitutional sanctuary county, I believe. Does this have any bearing? Is this, if we don't canvass the vote, is that going against the Arizona Constitution?
So it's a statutory provision that requires the canvass of the election. And today it's statutory. It's not a constitutional provision. It's a statutory provision. And as far as whether it violates the, I'm going to try and restate your question a little bit to make sure that I understand it. Are you asking that if the board doesn't canvass the election, if that violates the Arizona Constitution?
Yes.
Okay. It would certainly subject Mojave County to lawsuits from those voters, electors, and candidates who would not get the votes or would not have their votes counted if the board refused to canvass the election today. Because those votes won't be counted. Those votes won't go to the candidates and the ballot initiatives that were that the voters cast for.
If it's not done by the 5th.
If it's not done by today's date, the deadline. because the 5th
Chairman
is the
Gould?
deadline for the state officials.
Supervisor Angus.
Okay, so that part of it, that today is the absolute drop dead date, is counter to everything that, all my research and through this week. In fact, just now, Cochise County voted to to just delay their meeting till Friday, where they are going to have experts and a report from the Secretary of State. So, I will feel uncomfortable voting if I don't find out for myself if what our lawyer is saying as opposed to every other lawyer, apparently including Cochise's lawyer. So is there any way maybe we can continue this for a couple of hours or something, just so I want to feel that I have done everything that I could possibly do, because, Supervisor Bishop talked about the money. We have spent money on ridiculous things in the county. Making sure people's vote counts is probably, to me, the most important use of our money that we could ever have. So I just wanted to put that in its proper perspective. So would that be possible? And then, for however long you deem would be appropriate, and then we can come back and, at least I can feel comfortable that I have done everything and the information that we're being told by our lawyer. And, he's one lawyer. People get different opinions. I heard is not what I have heard this whole week. So I just want to make sure that what I'm hearing today is the exact truth. No offense, Mr. Hawes.
If you would like to make a motion to recess, I will retract my motion if Supervisor Langenfelter will retract his second.
I seconded it, so I'll retract it.
Okay, so if you retract your second, then I will revoke my motion, and you can make a motion to recess.
Supervisor Gould, I make a motion that we recess this meeting until it's 10:30 now. There's lunch, 2 o'clock.
To remove your second so I can remove my motion.
She did.
Okay, I'm going to remove retract my motion.
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Angus is in the midst of a motion. You want to restate your motion?
Yeah, the motion is to recess. Can I go? Mm-hmm. Is to recess this special meeting until 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Bishop.
What I was wanting to say is this auditorium is reserved at 1 o'clock for a community meeting for District 1 and District 4 constituents.
Okay.
And that meeting will last.
How long is that meeting going to go?
It's going to be typically about 4 hours. It's scheduled from 1 to 5, I believe.
I see an
Okay.
attorney approaching. Got to try it.
In a recess, you have to specify the date and time when you're going to come back. Have they done that?
She said today at 2 p.m. They're still trying to figure out.
At this location?
Yeah, but,
So you have to do that in order to-
but apparently they've got the room booked for another event.
I'm not sure that just an hour is going to work for my questions. How does 4:30 sound?
Is 4:30 going to work for the supervisors' meetings with constituents?
There's nothing on the calendar today for this room.
It's been advertised.
Supervisor Angus, hang on for a second. They're checking their calendars.
Double checking. because they didn't. We're checking.
Okay.
Sorry.
Chairman Gould,
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
I'm looking on the District 1 calendar, and there is an event today, Monday, November 28th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's called a Let's Talk Community Meeting with Economic Development. It doesn't look like they, let's see, Mojave County Administration Building, mezzanine area, second floor.
Mezzanine, it's
Okay.
not here.
So this,
This room is open.
Okay.
yeah.
We in agreement?
Yes, it's
Okay.
the mezzanine.
Supervisor Angus, the room is open. It was the mezzanine that they'd reserved. So you
Okay,
can,
so-
and you need to put the date, the location, and the time of day,
And we're back to 2 o'clock?
if you want 2 o'clock.
Okay, I don't want to interfere with the supervisors from 1 and 4. If that's going to hinder them, if they're planning to attend that.
Ending.
Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Chairman Gould.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
I will attend as much of that meeting as I can. I believe that this is a statutory duty of a county supervisor. I'll be attending this as long as I need to.
Okay. Then I will go back to, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Because my screen went blank. I make a motion that we recess this meeting until November 28th at 2 p.m. at the Mojave County Board of Supervisors Auditorium.
I heard that motion. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
And we have a second. You've heard that motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. We are at recess.